And whoops, get rid of that. Hello, sir.
Hello, how are you?
I am great. We are here today. We are launching Stories of Veterans today. This is our second book in this series, of which there will be many. And we are here again with Dr. Trunnis Goggins, the second. And I'm so excited to get this book out here and get you all to meet the authors, the military veterans. Don't know why there's an echo. It drives me crazy, but we're learning a new program, so we will roll with it today and see what happens. Um, I think, Ernest, I'm going to mute you for just a second to see if I can figure out, or just let you mute yourself for a second. Um, anyway, so stories of veterans. We had stories of children lost, and we're going to be doing a series of stories of, and we're going to be doing some seconds of some of the books. And I just first of all want to say thank you to everybody that has supported the last book and this book thus far. We put the Kindle out yesterday. People have been on it and buying the book and buying the Kindle, and I just appreciate the support from all y'all. And I know Trunus does as well as the authors. And go get that Kindle, but get that paperback if you're anything like I am. I like to have the paperback in hand. I like to read my books this way, but it's great to have that Kindle because if you're traveling, you can bring it up when you're traveling. You can show it to somebody if you have it on Kindle and say, hey, you got to get this book. The great thing about these stories of books, the purpose of these stories of books are to be a resource for whatever subject they are. And this one's for the veterans. This one is all about that transition to home. It was very important to Trunus as he is a Navy guy. And that transition home for the military is easy as I would like to think. And it has stories of each of these military vets that transitioned home and some of the struggles that they went through, some of their expectations that just didn't turn out to be what they thought it was going to be. So there's some stories in here of what to expect, but the most important thing about that is their end of the book, there are resources and there are places that you can connect with, and you can also connect with these authors. So I'm so excited to get to start talking about this. And Trunus, go ahead and unmute yourself. And I just want you to say a little bit about this book and these authors, and then tell people about you and your part in the military, what branch you and I kind of already said what branch, but what made you go in the military and why you wanted to do this book.
I am a proud Navy veteran. And first of all, I do want to go back and reiterate what Nicole said about the support. I absolutely appreciate the support that we get. Proceeds from all of these stories of, some of the proceeds from the stories of will be going to programs, they will be going to scholarships, they'll be going to various projects to help people go through these transitions. The authors that share the story, especially in the first two books, these are people who have gone through it, and these are people that found ways to overcome, to move forward, and are sharing their story with you, so they can help you in becoming, actually easing the burden of this transition. I will say that in one of the reasons why Stories of Veterans, I wrote Stories of Veterans. I'm a non-traditional vet. I didn't join right after high school. I was a little bit later in life. I had to go and become a civilian and do fun things first. But I will say the greatest thing about my professional career is the United States Navy. And I've done quite a bit, and now I even can put on my resume best-selling author. But what I have to say is the greatest thing in the world was becoming a Navy vet. So proud to the point to where a couple of weeks ago we were doing stories of children, and in Stories of Children we did hit number one. And when we hit number one, I was like, oh, that's great, that's fantastic, and I was very excited about that. But 2 days after we hit number one, my son Nicholas Goggins joined the United States Navy, and that shed a tear. I shed a tear when my son joined. It was a tear of joy. It was a tear of pride. And yesterday I had the opportunity to meet his recruiter, and it was, again, it was something I always feel a part of it. It is something that in all veterans will share with you that this is something that this is the proudest moment of their life. It really is, to wear that uniform. I can guarantee you that if you talk to the average veteran, I can guarantee you most of those veterans still probably have their uniforms hanging up in their closet. I still do, and one day, if I'm able to fit it again, I might put it on. So that's what it goes. But this book again is strictly a book about transition, how to go from a veteran, a military active duty member, to a civilian. That is a very, very difficult transition. You have to realize that most jobs in the United States military, they take years to train you to become the best soldier, sailor, airman, and marine that you can be. But sometimes in your transition out, it may be 2 months to maybe 2 months to maybe 6 weeks, maybe even 2 weeks to get out of the military. And that transition to go back to the civilian world is far too short. And this book is there to supplement that transition.
No, that's awesome. And I think as people read it and the stories that they're going to read, and they're going to think of somebody that needs the book. Our military is humongous in this country, so everybody's attached to somebody. Knows somebody that's in the military, has a cousin, a friend, or whatever. And I think that's awesome that your son is following your footsteps. And I remember when you got the news, and we just happened to be getting on a meeting when that happened, and you were bouncing off the walls. You were so excited. So I think it's just awesome, and it was really cool. You could see it all across your face that you were just really excited. So I'm excited to get to know these authors a little bit more. I've gotten to face with them one time. I got to meet them face to face, and I've emailed, and they finally know exactly what I am a real person. You get all these messages. I always tell people I do exist. I'm not a chat bot. But so we're gonna bring up. I would like you to say a little bit about Mr. Master Chief John Cox before we bring him up, if you would please, and introduce him, and then I'll bring him in.
Master Chief John Cox, I will say this, Master Chief, if anybody, and I know that there are tons, millions of followers of my brother, David Goggins, and now, we have followers here of myself. The person who started it all, we would not be able to wear a Navy uniform without this individual. His name is Master Chief John Cox. I met him when he was a petty officer, first class, John Cox. He is absolutely a phenomenal person. And I will say this, I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for him and his work. My brother would not be where he is today if it wasn't for his work. And I will say that when I came up with the concept of the book, the very first person I called to make sure that I wanted them to be a part of this book was Master Chief Cox. He tells me to call him John. It is so hard for me to do that because I just can't for some reason. But he is John Cox. I did it. There you go. Welcome to our book launch, and thank you for being a part of this.
Trunnis, I'm truly honored. So, um, to both you and your brother, you don't know how appreciative I am of you for just inviting me to do this book because I'm very passionate about the transition and just the military in general. So, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
That is so awesome. Well, sir, I would love for you to tell us. Obviously, we probably can guess what branch of the military that you are in, but tell us what branch you're in, why you joined, and a little bit about your story, and then your transition out.
So I joined. I never thought about the military. I came from a lower income family, and the military was not my first choice. My brother was older than me. I have a brother and sister way older than me. I was the baby, um, and I was struggling in life. Didn't know where I was going, and the military just became an option. And I write about it in this book. And once I joined, it kind of taught me how to grow up, and that's what I liked about the military in general. And it taught me things that I didn't learn before the military, and I did good at it. And it was the first time in my life where I was succeeding at something. And I was bullied as a kid. I was chubby. I wasn't. I was born with a crossed eye, um, and I got through MEPS, which was amazing. So, and that's a joke. So for the military people, they'll understand that. But and I just fit in the military, and the different cultures in the military was new to me. Even though I'm from Indiana and I lived in poor parts of town, there was cultures there, but not like in the military. And I just fit in with everybody because everybody was nice to me because we were all in the same situation, and I really enjoyed that, and I just excelled at it. And going to Navy recruiting, um, I like to talk to people, and I was very sociable, and I excelled at it, and it was for me, and I just did good at it. And meeting Trunnis and his brother David, um, one funny thing, if I could tell it real quick, is in David's book, he said the recruiters called him fat. That was me. I've always felt bad about it because when he first came to our office, he was fat, and I was the one that got bullied as a kid. But I was trying to make goals as a Navy recruiter, but in military recruiters, God bless them, because that's a very high pressure job. And when you're trying to make goal, when someone comes in that's overweight, you're like, "Hey man, you're fat, get out." And it's mean, but you got it. The pressure is there, and it's hard today still. And I feel for him, but like I was mean to David, and if I saw him today, he'd probably want to beat me up. But and could, no doubts David could. But and even after that, David said, "Hey, you need to call my brother Trunnis," and you know it was the best thing I ever did because I got to meet Trunnis, and Trunnis is an awesome person. And it's just like giving people opportunities. If you just stop and think that everybody gets an opportunity, and that's what the military is about. And it gave me the best life ever if you just do it.
Love it. Love it. So what was so you had that advantage of where you came out of the military and you went into recruiting. So you were still really attached to, military. So are you still in recruiting or are you out of that now?
Yeah, so when I retired, I was in Minneapolis, and I retired from the military, and a company that I eventually got a job with hired me to be a recruiter. The transition was a struggle because being a master chief, you're the highest senior enlisted you could get, and you walk out and you think you're going to walk into all these, you're going to be in charge of everybody, and it's just not there, and it was a culture shock. And
Okay.
so I took a job, and I was like, I'm going to start over again, and I'm going to show everybody who I am. And I did, and the company I went with was really great, and I worked my way up, and I worked with them for 6 years, and then um, I just wanted to do something different. I missed the military, so I wanted to do things back with the military. So I now work with a company where I teach the Navy recruiters um, sell skills and other things that I'm working as a contractor.
Okay.
I do things where I volunteer to help veterans with their resumes. I'm trying to do as many things as I can to volunteer with veterans or organizations. I would like to get involved in some kind of local government because whatever I can do to help veterans out, I would love to
Yeah.
do because I think there's a lot that can be done. Because every time I drive around and I see people with signs, it's like I'm a homeless veteran. It just like kills me. Um, so, and then doing this book, I was like, this is awesome because my transition experience was horrible.
Yeah.
And I want to change that because the transition program needs to be fixed. And I think there's a lot we could do for whether you're in 4 years or you're in 30 years.
Yeah.
We need to do better. So I think what Trunnis is doing, this is a great start, and it needs to be a voice needs to be out there first to get something said. Because it really bothers me that someone can retire from the military and go right over to a transition program and run it and never gone through the experience of
Mm.
actually going out there, getting a job, going through the struggles and everything, and then going back and teaching that to these veterans instead of like, hey, I left the uniform 10 days ago and now I'm teaching a transition program to people
Mm.
and I have no idea. And that's what's happening. And I think it's still happening
Yeah.
because I still talk to transition people. So
Wow. What was like what was one of your big, I mean, I know your transition story is not, it's the reason for the book, right?
yeah.
What is just give me one of your struggles that hit the hardest or whatever.
I think the realization of how much money you really need
Mm.
when you retire. Are you really prepared to retire?
Mm.
Because in the military, there's pays and incentives that you don't get in the civilian world. And someone that makes $100,000 a year in the civilian world, that FICA person that's out there, they take a lot of money. And when you make $100,000 in the military, you make a lot more than you do on the outside. And meeting a lot of people living in Minnesota, there's not a lot of military. And a lot of my civilian friends are like, oh, I hear the military don't make a lot of money. And that's not really true because I lived well in the military because there's a lot of untaxed pay that you get
Mm.
and you make good money. But when I got out and I got a good job that paid good money, but the taxes and everything you take out of it, they take a lot of it. You have to make a lot of money in the civilian world in order to survive well.
Yep.
And I think when you leave the military, you have to be really prepared to, okay, if I get a retirement, this is what I need to make to make the same amount of income. And if I'm leaving after 4 or 10 years, what do I have to make in order to make the same amount of money? And a lot of people don't think about that.
Yeah.
And they get out and then they're wondering why they struggle. And that's something that the transition program needs to teach these
Hmm.
military members.
No, that's a really good point because yeah, we don't think about that as being civil. I mean,
No,
we know what our paychecks look like. Uh, it's not pretty. I've had to teach my sons that. My youngest, he's 21, and he's like, okay, so I got this new job. It pays this much an hour. I'm like, okay, but
it's
take this
scary.
much out. And he's
Yeah.
you're not much.
And the cost
Oh,
of living is gets higher and higher every year, no matter
yeah,
what politics is going on in the world. It still is
yeah,
going to always go up.
yep,
And you always got to account for that. And in the military, you get a housing allowance, you get a food allowance. You don't get that in the civilian side.
right.
And it's they don't count that into consideration. And my son is an officer in the Navy. My son-in-law is a nuclear engineer on a submarine, and my nephew just got picked up for officer. He's in San Diego. I have a nephew-in-law that's in the Air Force. I have a cousin that's in the National Guard, does the weekend thing. So I have a lot of military family that I talk to. I am a Navy recruiter, so if someone asks me, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, I
Yeah.
talk to them.
Yeah.
Here's what I think you should do. If you don't know where you're going,
Yep.
hey, if you can get into Harvard, Yale, or go to college. And if you can afford it, go to college, go do it. But if you can't afford it, don't put yourself in debt if you don't know what you're going to do.
Right. Yeah. No, that's really good. Trunus, what would you like to add or say or ask?
Again, Thank you so much, John, for being in this book. And he touches on a lot of of important points. One of the reasons for this book, both of us worked under Chief Buck Canfield. And Chief Buck Canfield told me, and this is one of the reasons why I wrote the book, and hopefully he's listening today. But one thing that he said, there's no reason that you should come out of the military without a degree and without a strong work ethic and job opportunities. But he says there's no reason, and he's right. There is no reason. However, like John was saying, you can still drive down any street in the United States of America, and you still see someone who's homeless and with a sign saying "Please help," and they're former vets. And this is one of and it's because of that transition. It's because of things that they're not thinking of. And there are a lot of things that are going on physically, mentally, and even spiritually when they get out of the military that need to be addressed before they get out. And we can definitely, prove Chief Buck Canfield right that, yeah, there should be no reason. And now I'm adding another, we are adding another arsenal to that war chest to make sure that there really shouldn't be a reason for you to come out of the military in a worse shape than you were when you got in.
Yeah. And, Buck Canfield, is a great mentor. And I just want to say one last thing. Dr. Trunnis Goggins, I'm so proud of you. The first time I ever met you, like putting you in the Navy, like all your accomplishments, man, you are awesome. So I appreciate this and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I love that. Well, thank you, sir. I will bring you back up at the end, but thank you for your service as well, as somebody that lives in America, and I appreciate all y'all. So thank you for your service, and yeah.
Thanks, Nicole, for all your help too. You've been awesome.
Absolutely. All right, let somebody in here. Put them in the background. Oh, I was gonna put them in the background. Hey, Dave, I'm gonna put you in the background. We'll talk to you soon. All right, let's see who we have up next. Who did I say? Okay, Alicia. I said it right. Hey, we're gonna bring up Alicia. If I can hit the button. There she is. Hello, love. How are you? I'm so excited. I've done another book with you, so I do know you a little bit. But tell us a little about, first of all, what branch of the military, why you went in the military, a little bit about your story, and your transition out, honey.
Yeah, how much time do we have? Just kidding. Thank you so much for putting this together again, Dr. Trunnis. This is just another example of storytelling, in a different part of my personal story that I can share with others. So I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this book with everybody. So much like Dr. Trunnis, I joined later in life. I was 25 when I joined the military. And, I was working retail. I was working on my college degree. I didn't have anybody in my family that had been in the military, and it just felt like something that I should do. I wanted to do something bigger with my life. And I felt like I was disciplined enough and I can follow instruction. All of these things that you see as a civilian looking into like the military lifestyle. I was like, this is for me. So I ended up joining the United States Army, and it's by far the best decision I've ever made. I felt where I needed to be, and I was afforded many opportunities. I have a very unique military career because of the opportunities that I was afforded, because of my ability to just be a squared away soldier. And just do what I was asked, or I never turned down a school in my military career. When they said, hey, do you want to go do this? It was like, yes, when am I going? What do I have to do? So that made my military career very, very unique and very, very rewarding, which is why I should have been a recruiter at some point, because I feel like I probably could have convinced a lot of people to join the Army. Even now when people talk to me about like, oh my gosh, do it and just do what you're supposed to be doing, So I did active duty for 10 years, and my first transitioning, I transitioned to the National Guard in 2020, which I think I'm probably the most recent to have be in the military in this book. And I did that because I got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice with focus on forensics, and I wanted to see what I could do with it. I felt like it was time to just translate that into the civilian world, and I really wanted to. Criminal justice, I just absolutely loved it. But I also decided to get out, join the National Guard as an MP, which is something that I had always wanted to do, anyways, and get my master's degree at the same time. So I went from active duty during COVID, right, which looked very, very different having gotten out during COVID. I did not go to work a lot that last 6 months, is all I'm saying. So there, you have the normal classes that you go through. And, I was also running a small business, just a personal training small business while I was going to obtain my master's degree. So I felt like I had it all figured out. But there were definitely lessons learned along the way. And the little bit that I was getting out of the National Guard, which of course you're your weekend warrior and stuff, it was enough to keep me like in that soldier mind frame that I loved so much. You know, just being a squad leader for soldiers and like coming up with training plans. And one thing I love about the National Guard, of course, is the state active duty missions. I mean, my unit in the first, it was during COVID year, during 2020, they were activated 5 or 6 times because of the COVID, riots, fires, all kinds of stuff. So I loved being a part of the National Guard. And whenever those missions came up again, I was like, yes, please, I volunteer, put me in there, I loved everything about it. Unfortunately, my plan to see out 20 years, it didn't work out. I had some life events take place. My wife passed away, and that kind of changed. It changed a lot of who I am today, and just who I used to be and who I am now are very different. A lot of the values and ethics and morals that I have are very much the same, but I'm just a different person than I used to be. And I tried to go back to work in the National Guard. I was showing up for the weekends, and it came to range time, to be honest with you, where they had ranges set up for like 3 months, and I was like, I can't do it. Like the soldier in me is still there, but being in that environment, I just couldn't do it. And it's a warrior task level 1, if I can't do something like that, then I shouldn't be a soldier anymore. So they did end up diagnosing me with PTSD and anxiety and depression, and so I was medically retired in May of this year, and there's still a big piece of me that absolutely misses it, but things that I talk about in the book is just how I'm still the soldier that I always was. I just use it in a different way in the civilian world now.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine, anybody that's been in that life. That's always a part of you. I know Trunnis has mentioned to me a couple of times how his Navy comes out in certain instances, but it's part of you. I mean, anything that you go through, anything that you live through, even as a civilian, anything you live through, it's part of your life, and it's just part of who you are. You lived that for so many years. That's who you are. And I want to thank you for your service. I know some of the things that you went through. I read your story in Triumphant as well, and it's a lot more detailed, and so I know a lot of your story. And I appreciate you as a person, the foundation that you have as well. What you're doing with your life going forward, I think, is just a testament to who you are as a person. And you're using your disability as a launching point and a launching pad for to help others. But I know that helping others with the same issues are also helps you,
Yeah.
and you're able to use your story and everything that's in your past to help others that are going through it at the same time. So
Yeah.
I want to commend you for that and taking that and doing that. Okay.
Thank you.
Trunnis, what would you like to add, sir?
I will say when I met Alicia, I met her almost a year ago. And the first conversation we ever had, I was like, this is one tough woman. She is super strong. And she's also, she is, I mean, she's strong. She moves forward. One of my favorite movies is Rocky Balboa. Not, I mean, I love all the Rockies, but Rocky Balboa is the very last Rocky. And this is when he goes back and he's like 190 years old and he's going to go fight one more fight. It was an exhibition fight, something like what happened just a couple weeks ago with Tyson and Jake Paul. And he goes to this exhibition fight and he looks at his son and he tells his son, he says, life's not about how hard you can hit. It's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And when I heard that so many years ago, that stuck with me and in life. And when I see people like Alicia, and seriously, it's not about how hard she can hit. She's one of the strongest people I've ever met in my entire life, and I mean that, right? And my brother is the toughest man on the planet, right? And I'm going to tell you, I don't think he has met Alicia yet, and he might change his tune a little bit if that's the case. But and I'm being serious because she is such a strong person and she is very inspiring and her story needs to be in this book to show what it takes to really overcome, because there are people that are going through these transitions, and to see how she has gone through this transition in a way where she is actually getting stronger by the day. She is accomplishing things and achieving things that people without those obstacles could not achieve. And she is doing it. And I know on the surface it looks like ease, but she is doing it. I know it's very difficult, but she is still doing it. And again, I am honored that she was a part of this book. And like I said, if you want a definition of strength, you need to read her chapter for sure.
Thank you. I mean, I don't know what to say to all of that. I appreciate you so much. Again, this is just a wonderful opportunity. And, I go into a lot more depth of things, like especially my military career and like being gay in the military. And, there's just a lot of components to my story. But I really appreciate that. And again, the ability to share your story is just so important. It's so important for people to hear your story, no matter what it is, whether you're a veteran or not, it doesn't matter. Just being able to share so that other people can hopefully feel inspired, and you can change lives that way. So, thank you again for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alicia, and as well, thank you for your service and what you have given, and honestly, what you're still doing through your nonprofit. And we'll see you at the end if you can hang around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, I am going to bring up Mr. Michael Kelly. I know you know him, so go ahead and
Yeah.
chat about him a little bit while I bring him up.
Michael, I don't know what to say about Michael and the fact that he is like the brother that I never had but never really wanted. He, he is an awesome individual. No, I'm not joking. I met him when I was an instructor at Ivy Tech Community College. We met literally in the hallway, and from the very first moment we met outside a conference room, he was instantly a great friend of mine. He is just somebody who he is a true friend. He really is, and he's somebody I talk to quite often. Some of our conversations cannot ever be recorded or discussed in the public because we are two guys. You know what I mean? But he is a fantastic individual. He's a powerful individual, and again, he is the symbol of he's a symbol of determination. That is for sure. Welcome, and thank you for being a part of this book, Mike.
Yes, Thank you,
Hopefully, you
Mike.
can hear me a little better. I have no control over the volume on this thing, so I've tried to turn it up. Can you hear me at all?
We can hear you. You'll just have to go for it. And so I'm going to let you go ahead and we'll be quiet so everybody can hear you. But go ahead
Roger
and,
that.
tell us what military service you were in, why you joined, how long you were in it, and a little bit about your transition out.
All right, so basically, I come from a poor family, as most, you know, rural town Americans have. All my family members were drafted. I have nobody in my family that voluntarily went, but I have a lot of war veterans that I was raised around. So hard drinking, hard fighting, talking about killing, that was a common, conversation at our family gatherings. Most of them that went through the real deal didn't talk a whole lot about it. I did have an uncle that was a sniper in Vietnam. I had an uncle who was an island hopper in World War II who kind of raised me because I grew up next to him because my mother and father split up when I was very young. So I didn't really have a father figure as far as a dad, but I had father figures as far as men in my life. But my uncle Weep, who was an island hopper, told me straight up that if I ever joined the military, he was going to shoot me in the foot because he got drafted in World War II and he fought 3 years and he never got to see his homeland. They promised him leave after basic and put him on a carrier and sent him towards the islands, and he actually got sunk in the ocean and floated in it. So his ride was very rough. So his story was very rough, and it made a very unique individual out of him. And I watched a human being be broken their whole life, and it always, I always wondered why is Weep so different. Anyhow, Weep passed away in the early '90s, so I joined late because I wasn't going to join while Weep was alive because he would have shot me in the foot. So I ended up going in. I was laying there one day. I was a musician. I played in a rock band, but I also started hanging out with motorcycle clubs. I'm a very big time Harley rider. And I almost joined a club called the Diablos, and I'll plug them. I didn't talk a lot about some of this stuff in the book because I was limited on exactly where I needed to go. But the camaraderie of the Diablos always impressed me because there's a brotherhood. And even though most of them are out there doing not the right thing necessarily to society's eyes, they still had brotherhood and they took care of each other. Luckily, I didn't go that route. No offense to them, but a lot of them guys go to prison and that just wasn't where I needed to be. So I joined, and it changed my whole train of thought. And then I ended up with a lady that I married, and I had a family to support. So the military not just became a great thing for me, because the first 10 years was for me, but the last 10 years was to secure my children and to secure my family because I had a son born with some medical issues, which I do talk about in the book. And so, I stayed. I'm glad I stayed because the last 10 years ended up being the funnest 10 years. Because just like Alicia was saying earlier, talking about schools, I mean, I'm a tank master gunner, all right? I was an Abrams tank commander. I was an instructor. I learned a lot about the tank. I learned a lot about ranges. I've been to sniper school. I didn't do any of the jump schools or none of that because as a tanker, I never could have got that. But I became a range expert and I built a lot of ranges at a National Guard base. So they sent me to a lot of unorthodox schools, contrary to my MOS, because they wanted me to be a subject matter expert on all things that shoot and blow up. So I actually went to artillery school. I've been to CQB school, master breacher course. I mean, I was going to schools that were being taught by Delta operatives. And I mean, for a little short, chubby tanker, that's kind of pretty cool. So I never would have got that in armor. But when it comes to, you know, putting lead down range, I'm the guy. But in the civilian world, that don't mean a whole lot. You know what I mean? Unless I go into, if I would have stayed with the military and contracted out like Chief was talking earlier, I mean, I could have had a really fruitful career as far as money wise. I mean, I've been offered jobs in Poland. I've been offered jobs in Germany. but I wanted to get out and do something just a little less violent. You know, I grew up in violence. My youth was full of violence. Hanging out with the biker clubs was very violent. And then joining the military and going to war was very violent as a tanker. You know, some people get a ride over there and they get to chill out and do what they do, but we don't go over there and pass out suckers. You know what I mean? And I just got tired of all that. So I wanted to teach. I was a teacher in the military. It kind of came natural to me. And so that's where I met Dr. Goggins is in the hallway at a facility that we're an institution that we taught at. And it was like he said, it was immediate. The first thing that caught my ear is the first time they said Trunnis Goggins, I was like, wow, that's a unique name. I was like, you know, I've never heard that name. I've heard a million names in the military, and I hadn't heard of David at the time, so I didn't correlate that until I knew Trunnis. I knew him before I knew David, even though ironically, David grew up right by where I grew up. He grew up in Brazil, and I grew up in a place called Clinton, Universal, Indiana. But anyhow, it was brotherhood right out of the gate. As soon as I found out he was a vet, you know, we work at a college, and no punt to the colleges, but there's a lot of different opinions in colleges. And military, we're known to be a little different ourselves. So when I met a fellow veteran, I was like, yeah, I got a homie here, rock and roll. So it was automatic. And Trunnis talks about me being a good friend. If I could sit here and tell you the hours that I've spent on the phone with him and he's talked me off the ledge. I mean, I've had a really pretty rough run, and I speak of it in the book. I went through a real shit divorce, and I was married 25 years, and I raised 4 kids, beautiful kids. And, you know, after she came in and you know, said, I'm done, and took off, and my relationship with my kids are strained because I was always gone. So naturally, they hovered around her and her, you know, ways. And I'm just now. It's ironic. Just this morning, my son called me. I have 7 Harleys, so it's no secret that I love motorcycles. Well, my oldest son now all of a sudden wants to race dirt bikes. So there's a bonding process getting ready to go down because I'm going to trade one of my Harleys in. We're going to go this week, and I'm going to get a KTM dirt bike for my boy. And I also have a young nephew that because Uncle Sean rides and he loves me and my helmet. He's obsessed with helmets, which I was too. Evil Knievel and his helmet was like my favorite thing when I was a kid. So anyhow, hopefully that'll be a positive thing in the future. I feel like 25 is going to be a really positive year period because one, when Dr. Goggins called me and said, hey, you want to be in a book? I was like, oh boy. What's he writing this one about? You know what I mean? Because if you know me, yeah, I'm out there. I'm one of them guys that you just you got to put on speakerphone when you call me. Don't ever not put me on speakerphone. And going out and drinking with me can be hazardous to your health because it's usually about a 3-day event. But anyhow, when he told me I was going to be in a book, I was like, okay, let's roll, you know. And then when he said what it was about, I'm like, oh, cool, man. And, you know, to say an honor or a privilege, I mean, that's too cliche. There's not a word to put into what it, you know, means for him to have even thought of me. I know he thinks of me. You know, Trunnis is one of my best friends in the world, period. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts. And he, you know, it's just the way it is. You meet very few people in life that are truly stand up and that they're the character that they say they are. And he is 100%, man. And like I said, I've spent hours. I've called him, and I know he's a busy man, but he always finds time to answer, call me back. He's gave me hours of his time on the phone. We don't live near each other anymore, so we can't just go hang out. But, you know, at one time we worked together, so we saw each other every day. And we do a project for the Indiana Department of Corrections, which is very special, and it was passionate to me because, you know, I teach welding, and Trunnis teaches another part of their of the class that preps them. It's like a preparatory class for them getting out, and we bonded over that. And, you know, I came in on my weekends off, I came in on my holidays to teach inmates, you know, because I believe that everybody, you know, I didn't start out life, I've never been a bad person, but I didn't start out life good in society's eyes because I partied and I handled stuff that some people consider illegal, as far as drugs and all that bullshit. But I made it through it all, and I knocked 21 years out in the military. I did medically retire as well. I was trying to hit 30. My goal was E7, 30, and Master Gunner. I made E7 three times, um, and but I didn't get demoted due to adverse conduct. I got demoted because I kept having. I ended up in an AGR position. I went from the regular Army to AGR, and every time I moved from state to state, they took my promotable status, and I had to decline promotion to go to the other state. Because what happened was, as a master gunner in Indiana, I wasn't on tanks. I was a master gunner of a range. I was the state master gunner for the state of Indiana at an Army base. Well, then California called. My homies out there called. I'm like, Kelly, we need you in California, man. So I declined promotion in Indiana, go to California, rode out there. We do 2 field maneuvers. The commander calls and says, hey, we're getting rid of the tanks. They're taking the tanks, and we're getting, what are those? They're not labs. They're the, whatever the vehicle was, the wheeled vehicle. The Army went to them. But anyhow, I'm like, dude, I'm not playing with those things, man. I'm a tanker. 100%. Just go ahead and send me back to Indiana and retire me. So that's why I threw in I had stuff I was sitting on that I knew could get me retired, but I finally just threw it in, and I'm like, I'm out. My ex, that's when she came in and wanted the divorce. So, I mean, it's been a long journey, man. I've had a rough time with alcoholism. I've rode that train. I've drank and partied my whole life, but when I came back from downrange, it got different. And it got so different that, it left me very alone for 4 years. Again, I speak about that in the book. I went from a bustling, loving life to just being in a shower, huddled over with a whiskey bottle, man. And but I'm here now. I'm alive. Dr. Goggins has talked me through a whole lot of stuff, and I'm honored to be in the book, and I hope it helps somebody out there, man. Because the last thing I said in my chapter was there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I know that's a cliche, blah blah ism, but it's true. You have to wake up, and you have to put your left in front of your right, and you just have to march, man. Because if not, life will chew you up and spit you out, and that's all I got.
Yeah, Trunnis, anything you'd like to say?
I will say his story is inspiring. His story, and what I love about Mike is it's true. It's not going to be filtered. It's going to be this is what's going to happen. And Mike's story is so common with veterans, but again, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and Kelly has changed the lives of so many people over the last couple years that I've known him, and I know probably before that when I didn't know him. I know that he's changed so many lives, and I'm so glad he's a part of this book. I'm very proud of him. And like I said, he is. I know I said he's a brother that I never had, never really wanted. I actually did want him as a brother. He's a great brother, and he always will be. Thank you for being a part of this book, Mike.
Thank you, Michael. I have gotten to speak with you a couple times on the phone, and yeah, no, I appreciate you, and your chapter is really good, and there's a lot of content in there that is really going to speak to a lot of people, and I love that you are giving back and doing that and teaching and changing up your life a little bit, and like you said, getting out of that violent and it's a hard transition to go from this all the time and to shift into to more uh, but I love that you're taking it and you're giving back, and I think all of y'all are doing that, and I think that's just amazing that after all the stuff that y'all had to go through, that you're finding that peace to be able to give back to other people even through the mess. And I think that's great. So thank you for your service. Yeah, go ahead.
One last thing I'd like to
Yes.
leave on is this transition is like being a race car driver, and you're racing and you're hauling and you're winning and everything's great, and then all of a sudden they say hit the e-brake, and you're like, what? You just got to hit the e-brake, get out of the race car and get in a sedan and just drive.
Yeah.
That's the transition.
That's a really good analogy. I love that. That's really good. Thank you so much, and thank you for your service. And stick around if you can for the end.
Oh, always.
Thanks,
Thank
sir.
y'all.
All right, we have Mr. David Amons joined us, so I'm gonna bring him up next. I think. There we go. Oh, hopefully I didn't kick it twice. David, are you there? There he is. Oh, wait. Let me get it. Try that
Can you
again.
hear
There
me?
we go.
Okay.
Hello. Okay, that was
All
weird
right.
because did he not look different a second ago? That was weird.
Yeah. I actually ran and changed because I saw myself on the camera. So when you told me I'm just going to put you in the background, I'm like, okay, great. Because, Trunnis knows, I work on Saturday morning, right? So that was my like no camera look. I'm like, oh shoot, gonna be on camera today, right? Of course, the hat kills the hair, the morning hair, so
That was
that takes
great.
care of
I'm
that.
like, that was the weirdest thing ever. Because
I'm glad that you did change, Dave. I mean, I will say I'm glad that someone else noticed because when you came up, I was like, I really did for a second there. My mind was like, is this, because your days and times and everything runs into each other. I'm like, did I see what I saw a couple days ago and just now seeing it,
Yeah,
you know,
I do
kind of
that
messed me up.
too. I do
So.
that too. Did I say something to him? Did I not? I mean, I thought
Yeah, and
it.
it did mess with my mind a little bit, so I'm really glad that you brought that up, Nicole, that he did change because I could have swore I saw something different a little while
right?
ago.
That
Oh
Yeah.
my
messed with my
goodness.
head for a second. Well, hello, sir. It's good to see you
Hello.
again. You
Yes.
were also in Triumphant, that
Yes.
Trunnis and Alicia, oh, sorry, honey, was in. And so I know you a little bit, but tell everyone, obviously, which branch of service you were in, why you went in the military, how many years you served, and, you know, what the when you became a veteran, and just a little bit about your transition out without giving away the
Okay.
book.
Very good. Very good. Okay. So I am a proud Army veteran. I served in the Army since actually right out of high school. I was in total for my two terms, my two tours in the Army for almost 21 years plus. So somewhere between 21 and 22 years. So I'm a retired Chief Warrant Officer 3. Um, so in in the Army they called me chief. So we call chief. I know we have Navy guys they call chief. And different people, and there may be different ranks or different jobs. In the Army they called me chief. But so I basically, my story goes, pretty pretty simply. It became a lot of twists and turns over the years, but it started in high school in the summer of my junior year, going into my senior year. I was working at McDonald's, and yes, I did work at McDonald's, and just thought I'd throw that in there. But I'm just wondering what I'm going to do with my life, and just kind of that thing you go through, as you're coming on your senior year of high school, and just it's one of those moments in time where as you're thinking it, right, that's when a recruiter comes in. So he actually wasn't a recruiter. He was one that had the hometown recruiter. He was a regular service member. He was a young guy, and he was airborne, so he had his jump boots and his maroon beret on and everything, and he just looked really sharp, and he looked close to my age, maybe a year or two older, and so I thought, when he started talking to me about the money, I'm like, wow, he's kind of young to be doing this. I think that's the advantage of having that program that they have in the different services of going back to your hometown and pulling it, because someone like me, it was a young 17, and he just told me all about the Army, and my father was in the Marines, my older brother was in the Army, my all of my father's brothers were in the Navy, so I have a military family. Not like a strong military, like my immediate family wasn't really. My father was in the Marines during the Korean War, and he was activated reservist, and then he did it, and then I didn't even know for years that he had been in the Marines. So it wasn't like, where I was raised in it per se, but we love our country and we're, patriots. So that was something as an option. And, honestly, I was the youngest of six. And also my mother's sister died young, so her two children also grew up with us. So there was 8 children in the house, along with my parents. And my father was a teacher. My mother didn't work outside the home. So I'm like, how in the world am I going to be able to go to college? You know, so that was a concern. It was like my initial concern was about college and what am I going to do with my life, and if not college, training or something. So he came in right at that time as I'm just wondering what I'm going to do, and I started the process with him. I mentioned in the book it seemed like everything I did there was a twist to it. So I that initial time I signed up, I go to see the recruiter, and it's one of those stories you hear about recruiters. No offense, Trunnis, but he told me, and I know now, kind of later, but he told me, yeah, you're supposed to go in the infantry, and then like 6 months after you're in, you can change your job. Everyone's infantry. There's a saying in the Army, everyone is infantry. That's a figure of speech. That because everyone, you have to be able to fire your weapon, you have to fight. You have to be able to fight no matter whatever your actual job is. But that's not literal. Well, he told me as if it were literal. I signed up to be, infantry, airborne infantry, and about 6 months. So this was like the summer of my senior year. So this is July. Um, about 5 months later, my cousin, who's about 10 months younger than me, she's at the club and meets a girl who's the wife of a soldier who's deployed, who's in Korea, and he came home from his mid-tour leave, and so she said, "Oh, come over." Her name was Marina. Come over and see Marina's husband is coming home from Korea, for mid-tour for Christmas leave. So you can talk to him about the Army and what it's like. And so I go talk to him and tell him, what I'm signed up for and what I'm doing. And he's like, "Oh, okay, well that's good, yeah. So what was your GT score?" What was your score in your test? I'm like, I told him was. He goes, you can do anything you want. You just really want to do the infantry thing, and because some people do that, right? Like that was the whole story about the movie Platoon, right? He was a rich kid. He just wanted to be infantry. He wanted to be a fighter, and that's fine. But I said, no, actually, I wanted to get electronics. And he's like, oh, well, once you're gonna have to wait for like the end of your contract to switch, if you can switch. So, I told my father who had to sign for me because I was under 18, and we do a big fit, with the recruiter, and I went back and I was able to change my job, but the problem with it was he said the condition was I'd have to honor the original contract. So I signed up 363 days in advance. So I was going to be going, I would have a month after I graduated to have fun and then go off. Well, because they had to find a class date that would fit, they ended up, basically they had a month to play with from the day I graduated till that day to find me a slot. And it ended up being 1 week after my 18th birthday, 5 days after I graduated. So that kind of sucked. But I went off into the Army, just totally green, new to life. 18, like I said, 1 week, 18 in 1 week. I'm off in basic training in Fort Dix, New Jersey, and I'm electronic repair. So I did my first tour doing that. Went to Fort Gordon, Georgia for my school, and just a young punk kid, just having fun, soldier. Um, and Trunnis knows I like to tell jokes and I like to have fun. And so when I got to my first duty station, I found out, well, it's okay to have fun and talk and all that, but not when the sergeant says, we got to get to work or whatever. And so I got in trouble for being mouthy. It's hard to believe, but it happened. And so, I was put on, this was a life-changing thing because I was put on permanent KP, kitchen patrol. And like when you deploy to a national training center and you're like 30 days in the desert of California and it's really hot, 125 degrees, and you're basically the slave of the cooks. You have to do everything. They just set up their tents and, oh, it was horrible. And I was so mad. I came home, or came back to redeployed. I was stationed at Fort Knox, Kentucky at the time. And I came back and redeployed, and I'm telling my buddies, they call them in the Army, they call your other E4 buddies. They're called barracks lawyers. They're the ones that know everything about everything. Yeah, oh no, you don't have to put up with that. You could do this, you could do. They don't know anything, but they tell you that you can. And I said, well, I'm going to request to leave here. And they're like, well, I mean, you can request, but you're not going anywhere. And I'm like, well, but I'm going to do it. I want to get out of here. And well, go ahead. I mean, technically you can, but you're not going anywhere. So I go to the orderly room where I was, where you put that paperwork in, and even the lady, the sergeant that worked there, had to help me. But she's like, "You're not going anywhere. It's not going to happen." And I said, "No, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because I have a right, because it was just my little protest against my sergeant." And so I put it in, and as I'm leaving, she says, "Wait, wait, wait! Before you leave, you have to put three places. It's called in the Army. It's called 4187 is the form number. It's just it's a general request form. So you use it to request a lot of things, but one of them was overseas service. And so I said, I don't even know where the Army is, like overseas. She said, just put three places. It doesn't matter because you're not going anywhere. It's not going to happen, but just put three places. So I put Belgium for Belgium waffles. I put Greece for Greek food. And I put Panama because of the Van Halen song. And so I left out of there, and that's what's going to happen. I go back to my base. I'm really going on with my life. I'm actually fun. I've gotten over it with my sergeant. I was just throwing a fit. I come back a month later to sign the paperwork to say, okay, you were turned down. Your request was turned down. You acknowledge, blah, blah, blah. And, this is back in the day. So there was the one computer in the unit, right? Back in the day. And the orderly room sergeant, checked the thing. He said, let me just check, do a courtesy check, because I know you've been denied, but let me just check. And so she checks, and she says, you're under orders. I'm like, where? And it was Panama. And I ended up going to Panama. I was only there for a year. Everyone stayed 2, 3, 4 years for whatever reason. My request went through, and they needed somebody in Panama. So I go to Panama, and then this whole story is like kind of a precursor to like everything else that happened, because my whole career changed from that. I went to Panama and found Jesus there. Started going to the chapel. My wife was a chaplain assistant, so I met my wife at the chapel, and that's how we met and got married. And of course we have our continued our tour together for one more time. We moved out of Panama. We moved to Fort Campbell, and that's where I was in a special forces unit and airborne and all of that. So that kind of leads me to this. So part of my transition, my first transition from military to civilian, is I was in special forces. It was great fun, and I shared, my positive experience this past month. Trunnis and I are also, we work together with Western Governors University as professors, and we're also in an organization called the Veterans Employee Resource Group, or the Verge. And this past month we had is our celebration month, and our theme this month was camaraderie. And we shared different stories, and we talked about how life can change, and different things happen. Like, of course, Trunnis' story and his story, which is another stories of children lost, and he shared that, and that was something. And I think as I'm doing this, my portion was talking about how great it was being. There are two organizations in the Army that have the nickname the Quiet Professionals, and one of those is Special Forces, and the other is the Warrant Officer Corps. So that's kind of my two combinations. So I get there, and I'm still kind of having fun with the Army and just running around, and now I'm doing really that kind of hoo-wah stuff, and not oorah, but hoo-wah stuff at Fort Campbell in the 5th Special Forces Group, to go to Desert Storm then. And when I redeployed, from there, they basically are like, okay, you're going to stay in Special Forces, and we're going to code your job, and you're going to stay here. You have a top secret clearance. You have, you're airborne, all of that. And so I'm like, I loved it. I loved it as far as the soldiering, but I was gone all the time. So, I have family, I had 2 sons by that time. And so I said, well, I felt like the only way I could get out of this was to get out of the Army. So, I felt like I had, electronic experience with the Army. I've tons of leadership management experience. So I just got out, and that was my first transition I mentioned in the book. I didn't really think it out at all. I just like I have this and this. It should just immediately apply. I didn't think about like a recession would would have all these companies say, okay, if you be a manager at Taco Bell, you have to have a bachelor's degree. And like, uh, I didn't have that. I just felt like I had this experience and this life experience, and things didn't work out for me very well. We moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and lived there for a couple of years, and went to get back in. I lost. I was basically lost 2 pay grades coming back in, but they were allowing me prior service to get back in. But when I came back in the second time, now I was motivated, you know, to okay, this time like I'm definitely not gonna be without a degree this time, and I'm gonna really believe, and as you saw in my story in Triumphant, I'm a spiritual person, and I know God does just has blessed me, and there's a lot of different stories that have happened for me, like in my story in the Triumphant book, which is still available on Amazon for all of you watching this. Um, anyway, I when I came back in, I was motivated this time to. There is a part of my getting out helped me with my transition when I got out the second time, because now I'm the okay. I need to get these things kind of lined up. So first, I prayed as I'm going back in that I get at least a bachelor's degree, that I'm able to have the time to be able to get at least a bachelor's degree, that I retire, that I can stay in long enough to retire, because I see the advantage of that, and then retire at least as an E8. And it was just really quite a story. I mentioned it in the book, but when I came back in, they only gave me 4 choices. They wouldn't give me my old job back. They said, here's your 4, because it's like hat in hand, your prior service, you're coming to us. It's a different experience than the first time. And so the one of the 4 that I chose was the hardest promoting of the 4, but I felt really strongly in my spirit to choose 52 Delta, which was a generator mechanic, because it was so more closely related to what I had done before. I could read schematics and all that, so I could excel in it. But you have to motivate. You have to be motivated yourself to get. You have to seek promotion. You have to go for it. You have to do things and get in position. And so I did school. I always worked on my physical fitness, of my weapons, all of that, to get all as high score as I can. And so basically over that period of time, I came back enlisted. Within 2 years, when I got to Fort Bliss, Texas, was where my new duty assignment was. I was in one of the harder promoting jobs I was a maintenance guy, so generator mechanic. I was one of the harder promoting jobs in all of that field in the Army, and I left there in 2 years. I left as an E6, so I went there as an E4. So when I was promoted to E6, I was one of 3 people in the entire Army that was promoted, and I just had this motivation, this kind of, it's almost like a supernatural motivation, like just getting these points and doing the right things and all that. So that really propelled me, and it eventually became selected to become a chief, warrant officer, and just stories behind that as well. But for another book. Eventually, though, one of the things I learned as far as all of those things, but by the time I went to retire, I had my master's degree. I got more than a bachelor's. By the time I went to retire, I had higher than an E8. I was a W3. And I was past the time to retire. In fact, I was going to try right at 20, but I was promoted in 2019, and in my 19th year when I was in Iraq, deployed to Iraq, I was promoted, and you have what's called an additional duty service obligation, a ADSO, and so I had a 2-year ADSO. So that's what kind of got me to 21 and a half or whatever it was, because I was kind of ready. My body was ready to retire, my feet, knees back. But that was part of what I wrote in the book of the transition the second time. I felt ready because I retired. I felt pretty good with my degrees that I wanted. Didn't really think it out, like, what do I want to do? Because that's what eventually got me to where I am now. And I know that, I'm a college professor, but there was additional things that I didn't think about that I needed to do. So I would have to tackle that later. And the other thing, probably the biggest thing that I was completely unprepared for, just did not know anything about, was VA. And you're just, I have my hat. I kind of wore this on purpose. Other than the bad hair, I could have chosen other hats. but this is disabled veteran, and that was many. I'm sure many of my um, you know fellow authors can talk about their struggles with VA and how little we're told about it. I think that's what's so great about this book, because probably I haven't read every single. I've ordered my book, and it should be here within the next day or two. So I'll get to see everyone's story. I'm looking forward to that. Um, and uh, I'm sure many of them will talk about that struggle, the VA struggle, and the fact that, oh, if I would have, so many times when you're in, and just tell this to anyone who's listening, that you're going to hear, oh, sergeant or chief, suck it up, you don't go on sick call, you don't get, you just hear some Motrin, you're going to be okay, but we need you at the shop, we need you at fill in the blank. We need you blank. Well, there's a saying in the Army, and well, it's actually part of the Army song. The Army keeps rolling along, right? We tend to think, and we are special. Every one of us individually, as a person and as a soldier or as a sailor or whatever, are special, yes. But in part of the big machinery, there's a reason, if you ever heard GI Joe, right? Do you know what GI stands for? Do you know what GI stands for?
Sure.
Government issue, right? So he's the issue. You're slotted in because your job and your job that you do, your rank, they slot you into this place, whatever location that is. So you can make a difference and make a change, but you're government issue. And that's not bad. It's just kind of how it is when it comes. That's why we shouldn't identify with our jobs as who we are, right? Because whatever, like even what I do with WGU as a professor, there'll be another one come in, and and so when it comes to your transition, kind of take care of yourself, take care of your body, go see doctors, and get it recorded. You got that little pain in your knee that won't go away. Get it recorded. And these are some of the things that I'm just finishing. I retired in 2008 and it's 2024 and I'm just completing all of my appeals and appeals and appeals. I've just kind of gotten to the level that I've been trying to get to. And it was really hard because trying to justify, I was denied for things that I knew was from the Army, but I didn't get it recorded. So that's probably my biggest transition. Overall, I had a really good career, and I'm just really happy. Unlike Michael before me had mentioned, about his marriage, my wife is just terrific. She's just so supportive, and she's been with me the whole time. So I've never had any issues with that. And then with her being an Army brat, she could adjust. Her father is a retired master sergeant from the Army, and so that was allowed her to be able to deal with things easier and better than some. So that's about me. I'm originally from Richmond, Virginia, or south of Richmond, a town called Chester, Virginia, and then I've lived and I've moved more than anyone I've ever met. In the Army, it's just worked out that way. It's funny. I told my wife we just moved down to our house here about 2.5 years ago, where I live now in Temple, Texas. From Fort Worth, Texas, and we're like, okay, when should the orders start coming? Because you get to about a 2.5 year point, you're like, okay, where will we be going in next year? So anyway, that's me, Dave Ammons. I'm the youngest of 6, and my father was a teacher. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you. What's so weird is you talked about how you got orders. You had Panama, you had Greece, and you had somewhere else.
Belgium.
But anyway, Belgium.
Yeah.
All right. So you have to, if you want to think about this in the butterfly effect scheme of things, and I have to say this, Panama was written by David Lee Roth. All right. And Panama is actually a stripper that he ran into at a club.
Really?
Yes.
I thought it was about Panama City, Florida.
As a result of that encounter that you had, as a result of an encounter that David Lee Roth had with a stripper named Panama, you now have had the happiest life of your life. Ever. You were given that chance encounter led to you getting married, which is so weird. That is a butterfly effect of no other. So there you go. All right.
Yep, and he got so excited and happy about that, we lost him.
Yes.
Um, no, but and the one thing that I've noticed that everybody has mentioned is no, not everybody has mentioned, but the one thing that he touched on was that degree coming out of the military. Coming out of the military thinking you have all these skills and all this stuff that you know how to do and going to get a job, and it's so huge, and it's changed so much over the years
Hmm.
that even anybody that's going to get a job, and it's like, well, I have 25 years of experience. Oh, you don't have a bachelor's degree? Seriously?
Uh-huh.
It's a thing. It's crazy. We're gonna bring well, he's back, so let's just bring him in in case there's anything else you'd like to say. But he came back. I said,
Sorry
you
about
got so
that.
excited that you disappeared. But Trunnis, anything else before we bring up our next author?
No, but thank you so much for being on, Dave. We appreciate it. All right. There you
Thank
go.
Thank you,
Just
you.
Trunnis.
don't.
I appreciate you, man. It's good to do this second one with you. And Trunnis is a great guy. I really enjoy, working with you, and you too, Nicole, working with
Thank
DNP.
you, Dave.
Thank you both.
Thank you for your service, Dave, and it's always good to have you around. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right. Well, the last one we've got more authors in the book, but they are not on here. But I'm going to bring up Miss Sonia, actually, Dr. Sonia. Um, uh, she just got her doctorate a couple of months ago. I was so proud of her.
Thank
Um, so, hello, beautiful lady. Why don't
Hello.
you same spiel? And I know you've gotten all your stuff written down, so I'm just going to let you go.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank you, Dr. Nicole and Dr. Trunnis, for inviting me to be part of this project. It is an honor and pleasure to be one of the co-authors of this amazing anthology with my fellow veterans and Dr. Trunnis Goggins. And then especially with the knowledge that, because when I found out that you are the brother of David Goggins, and my oldest son is a big fan of his. So it was like, wow. And so I want to thank you again, Dr. Nicole, for introducing me to a phenomenal Goggins family member. That was awesome. Now, who am I? I am Sonia Howell Barrow. I am a United States Army Chief Warrant Officer 5, retired, combat veteran, and I'm a mother of two adult sons, Jaquez and Deshaun Jr. I received my Doctor of Humane Letters from Mansi Christian University and received the credentials of Global Fellowship in Leadership Principles. As an information technology and cybersecurity professional, I earned my master's degree in cybersecurity from the University of Maryland University College, now known as University of Maryland Global Campus. And as a matter of fact, all three of my degrees were earned from University of Maryland University College throughout my military career. My associate, my bachelor's, and my master's. I earned my associates while I was deployed in support of Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. I was in Afghanistan when I received that. And I was part of the first commencement ceremony in Afghanistan. I am an Amazon International bestselling author, founder of Entrepreneur Sonia, certified life coach, CEO and owner of the Soldier Day Group LLC and Soldier Day Publishing LLC. About me. I spend most of my time traveling between North America, Europe, Hawaii, and the Caribbean with family and friends. And on a side note, I was actually supposed to be on a cruise this week from the 2nd through the 12th. But my youngest son, I don't know if I mentioned it to you, Trunnis. My youngest son was involved in a very bad auto accident in California, and he totally
Very
lost
sorry
his
to hear
life. Yes, sir. And so his car was totaled, and so that it, by the grace of God, he survived. That's what's important. But it threw my yearly Christmas cruise out the window. It was like, no, I can't go. So anyway, that's that. Um, Now, being medically diagnosed with PTSD during my numerous military deployments, I realized that writing is very therapeutic for me. So, through my writings, I attempt to edify and empower others to be the best versions of themselves by letting them know that the glass is always half full, never half empty. And I always have to go back to that because, again, the resilient part of me is like, I couldn't do X, but thank God for Y. And so, with my faith, strong will, and determination, I choose to be a beacon of hope and strive to encourage others to live their best lives that are filled with confidence, self-awareness, and personal growth. And so, I pretty much because I'm inspiring, motivating, encouraging, and entertaining readers through captivating storytelling by telling one story at a time. I want to ignite your tea while igniting your fire by savoring my tea. And when I say igniting your fire, I'm talking about being fearless, being inspired, being resilient, being empowered to always live your best and blessed life. Because that's something that I always hold very close and near and dear to me. I always have to ignite my fire. So now, a snippet of my chapter within Stories of Veterans. My chapter within the Stories of Veterans anthology is titled Soldier Girl. During October 1992, I enlisted in the United States Army as a private E1 at the age of 20. And upon retirement with over 26 plus years of active duty service, in November 2018, I retired as a Chief Warrant Officer 5 at the age of 46. And Chief Warrant Officer 5 is the highest warrant officer rank in the United States Army. My MOSs included enlisted, I was a 74 Charlie, which is a radio telecommunications center operator. And as a warrant officer, I was a 254 Alpha, which is a signal system support technician, and a 255 Alpha, which is an information services technician. And as a warrant officer, for the majority of my military career, I was simply called Chief. And so the places I've been stationed, I've been stationed at various military installations within North America, Europe, and Asia. So in Europe, I was stationed in Belgium. That's where I had my youngest son, in Belgium. Because I joined my oldest son. Well, he was 2 when I joined. And my youngest son, I was in Belgium. As a matter of fact, I was in the military from like the 26 years of my youngest son's life. I was in the military his entire life, from conception to a sophomore in college. So that's his whole life. And so, and in Asia, I was stationed in South Korea twice. And then we have the 4 deployments with the Global War on Terrorism. 2 tours to Iraq, 2 tours to Afghanistan. And so the pages within my chapter, I describe my reason for joining the Army, my why, which is my oldest heartbeat, Jaquez. And also, it was because I needed to escape poverty and to provide for me and him. Throughout my life, I always consider my 5 W's. As a single parent, I must understand my 5 W's and embrace my fire. Again, back to my fire: fearless, inspired, resilient, and power. Because I always go back to my fire. So it's always going to be in everything I discuss. And so with because of my why. So my fire and my why. And my why is my 2 heartbeats. So throughout my military career, I lived in a world where balancing the demands of military duty and parenthood was no small feat. But I know that I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. And so within my chapter, I share a glimpse of the few challenges that me and my children faced, because I had PTSD and my children had PTSD, military children. And that's something that is rarely discussed, because you always think about, oh yeah, the service member did this, the service member did that. But what about the children? Because I have missed, because like I said, I joined the Army. My baby was 2. He lived with my grandmother, who since passed. My grandmother passed when I was pregnant with my second baby. So my grandmother never even got a chance to meet my youngest baby. But anyway, I joined when my oldest son was 2. I didn't get him back until he was 5. He was kindergarten age, because I know I had to get him and put him in kindergarten. I had to actually give up custody. My grandmother didn't just have him. I had to give up custody of him in order to join. So now I get him back at 5. And then a couple years later, I just get him back. And then now, I obviously meet my ex-husband. Then we, get married, blah, blah, blah. But from that point on, you got to think about the times that I was apart from him. Because then it's overseas assignments, it's TDYs, it's this, is that. And so when I look back over the years, I missed a lot of years out of my children's lives. A lot. Especially my oldest son. Because he's now 34. And a lot of people, they think, oh, you always hang out with your kids. Yes, because I missed a lot of years with my kids. They are my babies. And so that's one of the important things. And so, which Trunnis and I will get together on the side after this to talk about a book about the military child, because that's a good topic that we need to expound on. So anyway, what caused me to retire? So shortly after being promoted to Chief Warrant Officer 5, I was abruptly medically retired. Although physically I needed to retire because of my body, because you got to think 26 years of playing soldier girl, that's a lot. Because, we are war fighters. Soldiers are war fighters. So physically I needed to go. Financially, at that time, I didn't think I was ready financially to retire. Same thing with what Dave was talking about and some of the other people hit on. I didn't think I was ready. However, with a medical retirement, when the medical board say, hey, Chief Howell Barrow, you're going to retire. They told me whatever day, 90 days later, it was not up for discussion. It was non-negotiable. Your retirement is November 18. And that was now, originally it was November 13th, but I did, because I was a senior warrant officer. So it's like, wait a minute now. I got leave days. I'm not selling. I need to take this leave. So I had to do what Dave just referred to as the 4187, requesting that. And they had to go up and down and around the moon and back. And because I was an officer, I think, a senior warrant officer, I think that probably, and I told him, look now, I'm not a private. I have missions. I have blah, blah, blah. So, because they were saying, oh, you could have took your leave. I couldn't. I had leave. And it's not beneficial to sell your leave when you're retiring. Because remember Dave was talking about all the pay and benefits? So when you sell those days, you lose all that extra pay and benefits. I knew that. So I said, no, I'm not selling it and only get my base pay. I'm going to take it, and then I get my what is it? Food allowance, all the extra stuff you get. And I wanted all of it. If I can get it, I want it. And so they ended up moving it from 13 November to 26 November. Works for me. Thank you. I appreciate it. God bless America. So my retirement date was moved to 26 November. So now, and I am a soldier for life. Thank you. And so what I thought it would be like when I retired, though I abruptly retired, my expectations were that it would be a smooth transition from military to civilian. Because, I think that everybody think like me. So Of course, it's going to be easy because everybody thinks like me. So it should be easy peasy. However, my expectations were not my complete reality. Some things were smooth, other things were not. Since I had VA, because one the benefit about medically retiring is if when you medically retire, VA already know you broken. They already know I had PTSD. They already know my back is messed up. They already know my neck is messed up, my knees, ankles, shoulder, everything, because that's why they medically retired me. So the VA is not gonna say, "Oh, no, that's not right." So, with that being said, 30 days after I medically retired and VA got notification that 30 days had passed, my VA disability kicked in without delay. And so that was a good thing. And then my military retirement, that kicked in. So I was able to, some people that medically retire, if they have less than 20 years, they don't get military retirement. Because I was over 20 years, I get VA and military. Because I served my time. So now, so that was what was smooth. Now the hard part for me transitioning to civilian lifestyle is that it was very difficult for me to go from being in a controlled military environment to a more relaxed civilian lifestyle. Because the Army is like, get it done. No excuses. I don't want to hear it. Say right place, right time, right uniform, make it happen. You sick, whatever. Take some Motrin, go get a crutch, get some Tylenol. I see you at work call. I don't want to hear it. You know, no excuses. I had an instance where I needed something that was critical, that was going to delay me from catching a plane. And I kept, let's just wait and see. Let's just hope for the best. That infuriated me because, what do you mean, let's wait and see? Like, handle your business. So that is the part that I'm still having a hard time with. And my kids used to even say, "Mom, nobody's your soldier. We're not your soldiers." Because I'm so used to do what I say, and let's do it. No back talking. If I say I want A done, let's do A. Don't tell me why you want to do D. Let's make it happen. So that's been a hard thing for me to adjust to. Now, my recommendation for service members exiting the military: start transitioning early. Understand that your reality might not match your expectations. Build a new support system. Face your mental health head on. Give yourself time to transition. Redefine family and your finances, and never stop reaching out. Because once the uniform is off, that soldier, sailor, airman, marine that you are is still inside of you. The skills you developed in the military, discipline, problem solving, perseverance, will help you to overcome the obstacles of your civilian lifestyle. So for those of you preparing to transition, be proactive. Do not wait until your last day to start thinking about what's next. Plan ahead. Take advantage of the resources available and know that it is okay for you to ask for help. Remember, you have already proven your strength and resilience in service to your country. Now it is time to apply that same strength to building a new, fulfilling life on the other side of retirement. My fellow veterans, you've got this. Now, my acronym that represents veterans is V, valor, E, enduring, T, tenacity, E, exemplifying, R, respected, A, admirable, N, noble hearts, S, steadfast patriots, and You can learn about my acronym and what it means with the acronym when you read my chapter in Stories of Veterans. But I want to thank you for your service. God bless you, and God bless America. And you can connect with me via my website at www.soniahowbarrow.com. Now, parting words that I always like to say on every one of my platforms is,
Yes.
as you continue to live your best and blessed life, remember to be grateful to those who tell you no. The no will continue to force you to be fearless, be inspired, be resilient, be empowered to control the outcome of your own destiny. I forgot my pen. Where my pen?
You're so cute.
I don't have it. I don't have my pen. Because the other
Aw.
part is, remember, you have the pen in your hand to write the future that God has for you. I have a pen. It's not my pen. I don't know what I did with my
There
pen.
you go.
Yes. I think I don't have my pen. But
Yes,
anyway,
you are. This woman is a powerful author. She has quite a few books, but um, she's got she's got acronyms for acronyms. Trunus, what would you like to answer?
First of all, thank you for being a part of this book, and it was great meeting you, and I thank Nicole for putting us two together.
thank
Your service to your soldiers has now continued. The same passion that you had for those soldiers back when you were in is the same passion you have for all of us veterans. Now you've included Air Force, Navy, Marines into your family, and I appreciate that. And that same passion that you have. I know that before this started, the plans that you have of taking this, because this is not just a book. This is actually a project. This is a program. This is a movement to help people go through the transition. And so again, like Master Chief Cox said, we're not. I don't want to see people on the corner anymore with signs saying "homeless vet, please help out." We want to be able to try to alleviate as much as possible to make sure that those individuals live, the life that they literally gave their life up for, all the promise that America has. There is so much promise, there's so much prosperity in this nation. And these people that wore the cloth of this nation are now not able to get those same benefits because now they're homeless through for whatever that transition happened. And we don't want them falling through the cracks. We want them to benefit. To have the life that they fought for and served and put their life up put their life on the line for. We want them to be able to experience those benefits as well. And thank you very much, Chief, for doing that for us. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
you're welcome. And before I go, two things. One, because I'm wearing my United States Army retired shirt, I want to give out a shout out to Jerry D. White, a fellow retired warrant officer, and his artist J Company. So if you're interested in getting any military shirts, not just Army, he's Army, so obviously I need it, and I'm Army. But if you're interested in getting any of the shirts, he's on social media.
Awesome.
See it, artist J. Yes,
Nice.
and also, did you want me to show the book? This one?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
your other book? Go ahead,
Yes.
Sunny.
Yes, and also I want to mention this book. This book is, I think, because I mentioned it to you, Trunnis. You were saying it could be a good reference or a companion um book, and this one is called My Personal Countdown to Military Retirement Notebook and Planner. And this book is a book about how to prepare during your transition. Um, it is broken down into 5 phases from month 24 all the way down to month 0, and then, into your actual retirement. This book will be a great companion because, as some of you all had mentioned, that some of the authors mentioned, like you retire and you don't know, okay, what do I do now? Even though there is the soldier for life, well, in the army, I don't know, I forgot what they call it, other branches, but the S tap or SLT tap or something like that. Um, they do recommend that you do it 24 months out to start. But what about those? Like me, I had 90 days and I had a quick uh shoot through the fire hose experience of the soldier, the I think S tap of Soldier for Life, whatever they call it. But I didn't have a lot to do. But this manual right here, this is your go-to. It could tell you step by step. Okay, we're in month 24. This is what I need to do. Did I do this? Did I do my resume? Did I do how's my finances? Did I calculate my budget? Okay, do I want a job? Where am I gonna live? This stuff tell you what you need to be doing month 24 through, I think I broke it down 24 through 18, then month 17 through 12, month 11 through 6, month 5 through 3, and then 2, 1, 0, like that.
That's
And
awesome.
so it tell you where you need to be. Even in month 0, it tell you you need to plan your celebration. Did I plan my retirement celebration? No, because by the time I ran through and had the 90 days worth of get your life in order, because you about to go from all this extra perks and benefits to bye bye. You get the blue card and thank you for your service. When they say thank you for your service, that's thank you for your service. Let's bring it in. It's time for the new people. So you need something to tell you step by step, month by month, with note pages and everything. Look, and I mean, it's this a great book where you could take your notes and all that stuff, things that you could really use. And I really think that this would be beneficial globally for all military service members.
Yeah, I
What you
think
think,
that's
Trunis?
awesome. Yeah, that's going to be awesome. You're muted, Trunus.
I am muted now. Yes, absolutely. Yes, I do.
I think
Okay.
that's going to be great. As a, there are so many resources in the back of the book. We're probably going to hopefully get that one out published everywhere so that we can add that to a resource of the back of the book as well. Because I think
Thank
that's going
you.
to be great. Sonia's just really good at putting those kinds of things together.
Thank you.
But I shocked you all and put you all on camera, and you're all looking down, and you're all like, look up, like, wait a minute, am I live? But you did really good. I was kind of hoping to catch somebody eating or something. Um, but I wanted to bring the ones of you that were still backstage up and just collectively thank all of you for, first of all, being so genuine and being vulnerable. I mean, these aren't. It's not easy to put this kind of stuff out there. You guys were vulnerable in your stories. You told personal details in each and one of these stories, and I am grateful. And I know that the people that get this book, the people that need this book, um, are going to benefit from each and every one of your stories, and they're going to learn so much from you. And I believe that anybody that's in the military now should have this book in their hands, because it is, it's going to help them with planning, and those moments of, oh, I didn't think about that, and oh, this person's going through what I'm going through, and it's just the whole, just what it's going to do. And I'm so excited for that. And I wanted to again thanks each and every one of you for your service. And I am one of those Americans that realizes that I live in America, in a free country, and I'm in that free country for a reason, and that's because of the military that we have. And I am very grateful for that. Um, Trunez, is there anything else you like to say as we wrap up? First of all, go get the book, get the Kindle, because we want these authors everywhere. But go ahead, Trunez, let's wrap this up.
I would like to say thank you to each of the authors for being contributing, the ones that are here and the ones that weren't able to make it. And I'd like to thank my cat for just jumping in the back right behind me there too as well. But thank you guys very much for that. Thank you for being a part of it. And for all the veterans out there, thank you for your service. And thank you for being a part of my extended family and part of our extended family. And we are always there to help each other through whatever goes through, whatever happens. We always have each other's six, and we will always have it. So God bless all of you. And again, thank you for your time today, and thank you for your service. And again, go out and get the book. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Y'all can
you.
stay on here. I'm just going to stop us online.
Okay.
All right. Yay. Thank you